All right, guys, we're back again. Another podcast, Oversteer TV, the podcast, until we find a better name. If you guys got an idea for a name, send it to us. We'd love to hear it. And of course, we're here, Mr. Music Man, Guitar Man himself, Jeff Brown, giving me a little tour of his guitars back there. I'm Tony Castanera. And so, interesting weekend, huh?
Yeah, it was great races this weekend. A lot of close finishes. I think the Kentucky Derby had a super close finish, won by a nose.
That's kind of set the stage for the weekend because it seemed like NASCAR goes, "Oh yeah, hold my beer," and
Yeah, hold my beer.
and how close was that finish at the NASCAR race?
I think it was 0.001. It was one of the closest finishes in the history of NASCAR. It was, and the whole race was pretty incredible. Five wide racing in Kansas. Literally five wide, which is crazy for a mile and a half racetrack that you can go five wide and still not wreck on the other end of that.
That's one thing you got to hand it to NASCAR. They know how to put on a show. They know how to set up the series for the fan for a show. It's never a dull moment at a NASCAR race.
And thank goodness Kyle Busch spun out there with a couple laps to go and then gave us the great finish.
Kind of like Lando Norris has got to thank Kevin Magnussen for that yellow that safety car.
Safety car, yeah.
Yeah, that was able to give him the win in the Formula One race.
I think Lando could have won that race anyway. I think he was in position.
He was fast, but he had a problem. He was so far back because he qualified poorly.
Right.
Once he got in front, yeah, he was in control. He controlled it, but getting to the front would have been difficult for him. He would have had to pass a lot of people. And when you're trying to pass in Formula One, it slows you down. And so the guys ahead of you.
Well, the thing was, he had the lead when that safety car came out, but he had like 30 seconds or something. I think he could have, even without the safety car, he might have been able to pit and come out with the lead. And we'll never know, because it didn't happen that way.
The McLarens obviously have improved. They're faster now. They're more competitive now. He had the full course yellow. The safety car helped him. There was some damage to the Red Bull. We don't know how much. Red Bull's kind of saying that it was more than what we know. And that's what cost them the race. I don't know about that. What I'm really enjoying the fact is everybody used to complain about the Miami Grand Prix. Oh, it's a boring race. It's a crappy race. It's all a show. Well, where are those haters now? I mean, it's so far it's the best race of the season, probably the best race in the last year. Yeah, so
it's been the best race out of the last couple of years, I think. Actually,
it was a good one, and apparently the fans in the United States like it because they had 3.1 million viewers, which makes it the most watched Formula One race in U.S. history ever.
Wow!
And what's really it beat NASCAR, their ratings, even, but that's kind of you gotta take it with a grain of salt because NASCAR was on cable, it wasn't on network as the Formula One.
And races. Also, NASCAR had a huge rain delay.
Yeah, that hurt him too.
In order to see the end of that race, I actually had to reset and my DVR to record the rebroadcast because I'm watching the race and it runs out, So I had to watch the end of the race a day later.
Which is one of my pet peeves about NASCAR. It's raining, so what? Throw in some rain tires and let's go back to racing.
Well, they do that now. They have that on certain tracks, but when you're going, on a mile and a half track, 200 mile an hour, it's
slow down.
Rain tires aren't going to do it.
So it's kind of hard to compare. Even though 3.1 million, I don't care against anybody. That's a lot of people watching. What's really painful, what really hurts is when you think that IndyCar the week before on network TV around the same time only had 700,000 viewers. Okay, this is so Formula One had 4 times the number of viewers. as opposed to IndyCar. They got to do
Which is a
something.
shame because Indy's been putting on good races.
They have, but there's something. Like I said, we got to do an IndyCar show.
Well, we're going to do an IndyCar show the week before the
500.
Indy 500.
Yeah, we'll do it then. But yeah, that's I got in trouble last year in some other platform where I told people, or I stated publicly, that right now Formula One is more popular in the United States than IndyCar, and everybody thought I was crazy, I was nuts. And I go, when you get 4 times the ratings, I mean,
you're right about that. You are crazy. You are nuts.
I'm crazy, I'm nuts, and and people complain about, and then other people are complaining about the prices of the Grand Prix of Miami. The average ticket's $450. We've all seen it on in social media, the prices of the food and all that stuff and everything. Fact of the matter is, they still sell out that race every year. Okay, they turn
And they
away
actually
people.
lowered the prices a little bit this year.
For
you can believe that.
Yeah, they lowered some of the prices for the cheap seats, so to speak, on the back, by the end of the back straight and everything. But still,
because basically, if you can afford the expensive seats, you don't need a discount.
Yeah. When you're paying $200 for an order of chicken wings, yeah,
no, not gonna do that.
The seats don't really matter. Don't really matter. So, the other thing with IndyCar is we've been following the disqualification, of course, in Newgarden and McLaughlin and everything, all about the push to pass thing. This week, Penske announced that they're going to be suspending 4 people who knew about it, apparently who were involved with it. They're going to be suspended for 2 races. Those are, what are their names here? Luke Mason and Robbie Atkinson. I'm sure if you live in the IndyCar paddock, you know who these guys are. And then you have Ron Ruzicki, who's the managing director of Team Penske. And also, to me, the big name that jumps out is Tim Cindric.
Well, he basically runs Penske.
Yeah, he runs Penske.
I mean, I think, because Penske's getting up there in age, and eventually I think Cindric will be running the whole show.
They say he's going to be suspended 2 weeks IndyCar. Of course, Cindric's also involved with the NASCAR, Penske NASCAR. We haven't seen, there was no mention of that, if he's not going to be able to do NASCAR.
I'm sure they're not going to suspend him in NASCAR.
Yeah.
Was he suspended by Penske the team or Penske the IndyCar owner?
Penske the team. Okay. Roger Penske, team principal. It was for the team. It was a team Penske decision, not IndyCar. IndyCar, the penalties are all done, but this is with Team Penske. Yeah, I understand what's going on. First off, when they were first back in the St. Pete, people started complaining that there was talk in the paddock that Penske, something's going on there because they have that push to pass when the light turns green on restarts, and they shouldn't have it. How come they were able to jump out so fast? So there was rumblings. And so Penske finally, the IndyCar looked into it. Penske looked into himself, and they came clean, and they did the right thing, penalizing themselves and everything. But I think some people were still kind of upset. Yeah, it's like it was like $15,000 in fines or something like that. And like for Penske, $4 billion. I mean, what's $15,000? And that wasn't enough. And so they went ahead, and nobody was being penalized except for the drivers. And so this is another thing, was saying, oh, okay, we're going to suspend these guys for 2 races. Cool. But if you look at the other way, they got a nice vacation in the middle of the season. They're all going to be back after 2 races. So now they don't have to.
I mean, you're being suspended, and what does that mean, really? I mean, you just can't come to the shop.
I guess they didn't say anything about pay.
You're not allowed. You're not allowed to text. I mean, are you? There's no communication whatsoever.
That's a Penske thing. It's for Team Penske. That's for whatever they want to say.
It's like when NASCAR suspends the crew chief, and then the crew chief calls the race from his lazy boy at home,
right,
over the phone. Yeah, he's not at the track, and they can claim there's no communication, but come on.
Yeah.
You get a burner phone,
Well, this is an internal matter with Penske Racing, so it's up to them to see how far
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
going to go.
Now, if it was handed down by IndyCar, then that would be a different, a
Right.
different thing.
Then they'd have to tell us, hey, what does that entail and everything.
That's
But
like
even
the Formula One 2-week vacation in August.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
you're going to tell me that there's nobody going to work on those cars for 2 weeks.
that is amazing how much the FIA really does police that. It's like they're supposed to be able to go into their servers, go into all kinds of stuff, do all the data. They really do a deep data dive in all the Formula One teams because they have to do the stuff for the budget too, for the budget limit. And so they really do a big date. I'm sure there's always a way around it. I know. You make a rule, there's somebody figuring out how to get around it.
Well, you just buy a bunch of burner phones,
Yeah.
and then into the 2 weeks you destroy them all.
Yeah, just talk and you can't police pencil and paper. So, I can't put it in the design now, but let me write it down. Then if we can't over,
like,
hey, I got an idea.
I'll meet you back by the dumpster behind the Walmart.
Right.
Which is one of my favorite places, by the way.
Oh, hey, yeah, I'm more of a Dollar General type of guy.
Yeah, I'm more Dollar Tree.
So it remains to see how they're gonna police that if Tim Cindric's, because of the two races are being suspended. They're both the races of the week. There's a race this weekend, the road course. Then they have the Indy 500. Cindric not being there at the Indy 500, that I'm sure that kind of
that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's a big deal. But after the two races, he'll be back, and by next year, people would have forgotten all about it. You know that. And Tim Cindric
we have short memory.
Yeah, and Team Cindric ain't going anywhere. No. Speaking of which, IndyCar again. We got the race at Indianapolis, the road course, which not a fan of that road course there, even though I'm a road course guy. It's one of those Indy. Geez, we keep on end up talking about IndyCar because I don't want to keep them messing.
Yeah, they didn't even race this last weekend. This is supposed to be a race recap show.
Yeah, okay,
and yeah. I'm wearing my yellow shirt to celebrate the safety car that came out to help Lando win that race.
Yeah, which to me, Kevin Magnussen was the driver of the weekend. He was like, anybody who pisses off Lewis Hamilton that much, it's okay by me.
Maybe Hamilton should not go to Ferrari. He should go back to McLaren where he started.
I'm watching the race and I'm following it also on social media, and everybody's saying, "Oh, Magnussen's cutting him up. Magnussen's holding up," and I'm like, "Pass him, just go around them." He wasn't able to. Magnussen was driving like, he was driving like he doesn't have a job next year. I don't think he does.
Well, maybe somebody will pick him up.
And every couple of laps, you'd see up on the top of the screen Kevin Magnussen being investigated for, penalized for, deducted for
being a thorn in the side of Hamilton.
Pretty much, and everybody else. I mean, he even ruined Logan Sargent's weekend. Oh no!
Yeah, like he was going to win it if it wasn't for Magnussen there.
But it was an interesting race. I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was a lot of action going on from the start to finish. They got who's next?
So when they go to the back of the track and then you see the cars going by on the turnpike in the background, that was me.
Oh, okay. I
couldn't watch it because I was driving to West Palm and I watched it on recorded it on the DVR. But yeah, that was me going by the turnpike real slow.
I'm sure real slow. I'm sure a lot of people see those cars and floor it when they see those cars go by. Oh, let me see if I can race.
There's a bunch of state troopers sitting there slowing everybody down.
Yeah,
but I did get a glimpse. I got a glimpse.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay.
And it didn't cost me $400. So I was there.
You were there.
I was there.
You were there. You got it done. It's I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I said, Ferrari kind of disappointed me. They seem to have a problem getting, or when they seem to have a fast car, but when they come up in front of somebody slower than them, they have a hard time passing them. It seems like, I don't know, maybe it's the aero affecting them. They can't seem to get that last little pass. They're like, we saw Sainz try to pass Piastri for lap after lap after lap, and nothing happened. And Leclerc, who I know he's fast, but I don't think he has the cojones that you need to be a regular winner in Formula One. He doesn't make those. There's there's a famous thing from Ayrton Senna. If you don't go for the gap, you're not racing anymore. I don't see Leclerc going for all the gaps all the time.
Yeah, well, that's what won the NASCAR race for Kyle Larson. There was a small gap for him to go up high up against that wall, and Buescher didn't close that gap. He should have blocked that, and it cost him the win. Because if you leave the tiniest gap, Kyle Larson's going to take it, and he's going to beat you.
Yeah. It's rare when a pass in any, I don't care if it's NASCAR, Formula One, IndyCar, sports car, it's rare when a pass is 100% the effort of one person. It's usually the guy in front makes a mistake or leaves a gap or does something wrong. Sometimes you do have the car is really a lot slower. Yes, the guy's a sitting duck. But when it comes up to the front, it's usually the guy in front makes a mistake combined with the guy in back showing rising to the top, so to speak. It's when it comes to the NASCAR, my thing with NASCAR is I like NASCAR. I love watching the start of a NASCAR race, and I love watching the finish of a NASCAR race.
It's the rest of the time you're taking a nap, right?
Yeah, the NASCAR nap. It's like an NBA basketball game. The start of the game, tip off, yay!
Yeah, the last 5 minutes of the basketball game is all you need to see.
Yeah, the same with NASCAR. I mean, I understand there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of strategy and everything, but
that's what was going on. There was a fuel strategy going on, and guys were not, pressing on the gas pedal because they're trying to save gas, and then luckily Kyle Busch spins out, changes the whole deal.
How did he just lose it, or I didn't see the spin out for Kyle Busch? How did that happen?
He just lost it. It's pretty. I don't know. It seems like it's one of those NASCAR cautions where the radio's in and says, "Hey, we need a caution here." Somebody spin out.
Somebody got on the radio and go, "Hey, Lars, hey, Busch, that new pool you're thinking about getting."
It's usually Bubba Wallace, but I don't think they have to call him and ask him to spin out. He just does that anyway.
Where is the next race now for NASCAR?
Oh God, I don't know. I know they had the 600 on the same day as the Indy 500, and Kyle Larson will be in both.
Right.
So I'm really interested in seeing that.
That'd be interesting to see what happens because I'm sure his priority financially, contractually, is with NASCAR, that he has to be at the 600. And if something happens at the Indy 500 where it's delayed, which
rain or something,
it happens in Indy in May, it rains a lot.
And let's face it, he really has no shot to win the Indianapolis 500. To come in and having not been in the cars, he's practiced the car, and he's getting the feel of it. But, these guys are in these cars every week. And if you're not in the car every week, you're not going to win. That was my situation when I raced at Hialeah Speedway. I raced once a month, never won. And then I decided I was going to race every week, ran 5-6 weeks in a row, and I won. So that's how you do it. You have to be there every week.
The Indy 500 is an interesting race. So it literally is you start the race and then you just try to survive. until the last. They say to the last 100 miles. That's where the race really begins after the last round of pit stops. And that's, I can see a case. I'm not saying he's going to win, but I can see a case where he can go up in the front if he keeps his nose clean, just stays out of trouble, listens to what the guys in
Kyle
this.
Larson, so I wouldn't put it past him. Like I said, in my opinion, I think he could go dominate Formula One. He's that good a driver.
Remember, wasn't that long ago where Fernando Alonso was in the Indy 500, and he was leading the race.
Yeah.
So that was the year where all the Hondas were blowing up 3/4 through the race. But he was leading. He legitimately, he was leading the race. He passed everybody, got to the front, and he was dominating until his engine blew up. So it can happen. It can happen.
Okay. And like I said, I wouldn't put it past Kyle Larson because the kid he can get in any kind of car and win with it.
Yeah, people Indy 500s, Indy 500s, Indy 500s, it's different. You have people who only race the Indy 500, just show up for the Indy 500, and they do well. It's been a while since one of those guys have won, but they still Takuma Sato, he was not a full-time driver his last Indy 500 win, but they put him in a car and he won pretty handedly too. Who's the Ed Carpenter's another guy. He's never won it, but he's a guy who pretty much only does ovals or only does Indy 500. He gets in there, gets in the car, and he's usually near the front also. He's running and running. Some people are just good at the Indy 500.
Yeah.
No. So we've run out of stuff, man.
Yeah, it was a week. We only had like a photo finish and a great Miami Grand Prix. Speaking of Miami, I think this year we're gonna do a Miami Dolphins podcast, but we're gonna wait until football season. When football season starts, look for our Miami Dolphins podcast, and I think we'll have a lot of other folks come in and join us on the
Dolphin podcast.
Zoom chat here.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's always something to talk about the Dolphins, because man.
But this is our racing podcast, so we'll leave that for then.
Leave that for later.
I guess late August, early September will be the start time for that, I guess.
That's the thing with our racing podcast, because how we're doing it later in the week, for us to right now on a Wednesday talk about a race that happened Sunday, where anybody out there already knows what happened, already seen the reviews, already seen the finish of NASCAR, already saw what happened in Miami. They know all that stuff, so we're not going to bore them with going over the same stuff. Nobody wants to hear that. We're going to be bringing in some other topics. I got some ideas that we got to sit down and we'll put out some stuff, and
But we can have some guests come on.
I got some guests lining up. But I want to be able to speak as they used to say, truth to power here.
With that. So what you're saying is we're never going to get credentials to any race for truth to power. Let's piss everybody off, Tony.
Well, I say truth to power, piss people off just enough where the big boys don't recognize us, so we can go under the radar. What do you say?
Yeah, we're going to get punched in the face by Denny Hamlin, probably, because who likes Denny Hamlin?
Oh.
and speaking of that, Denny Hamlin was leading this race, with playing the fuel strategy deal, and he's having an incredible season, and he does this every year. He has an incredible season. He wins all these races. He makes it to the playoffs and then chokes right at the end. He's probably the best driver to never win a championship.
Probably.
And he'll probably do the same thing this year. And that's probably why he's going to punch me in the face.
I wouldn't worry. It probably wouldn't hurt if he did.
Yeah, but Michael Jordan might hit me. That would hurt.
That would hurt. And then he'd bet to see how much your medical bill would be.
He would cover that,
No, he'd put a bet on it, high or low, over under on your medical bill. Yes, I'm saying Michael Jordan loves to gamble. He's a degenerate gambler. Anyway.
He likes to party too.
Oh. Can you blame him?
He's been known to party a bit.
I'm sure they have. I'm sure they will. I'm
I
sure
mean,
he
I
does.
met him. I've actually met him at the Homestead Miami Speedway.
I met him too over there during testing, and yeah, it's the best time to meet him is during testing because when we had access during testing, because during the race you can't get near the guy.
Yeah. Well, he came to me. I didn't even. It was after the NASCAR race in Homestead, and I'm on pit road next to Denny Hamlin's car, and I'm just standing there by myself, and all of a sudden I look up, and here comes Michael Jordan, walks right up to me and starts talking to me, and I'm like, wow. I immediately pull out my phone, take the selfie. And then his whole entourage came up and they kicked me out. And I'm like, hey, I was here first.
Yeah, well, that's what the entourage's job is.
Yeah. The porn star girlfriend that he had with him.
Oh, wow.
I guess, and that's another reason why he's going to punch me in the face. She's like, who are you? And I'm like, nobody. And then she's like, security. Security. Guy right here. I'm like, hey, I was here first. And like, yeah, so what? Hey, but I met and talked to Michael Jordan, so
hey, come on, you knew how it is in the NASCAR paddock. You got credentials? I don't care.
I don't care. Yeah, exactly. No, when security tells me to move, I move. Because I don't want them hauling me in and saying, "Oh, Jeff, you had credentials? Say goodbye to your credentials."
Right.
Like, no. Security comes, tells me to move. Jeff's moving.
One day I'll tell you the story when I got locked into the media center with a bunch of NASCAR drivers because Michelle Obama was coming to the race, and so they had to lock down everything. And so I'm sitting there with a bunch of NASCAR drivers, and we're like, now what do we do? And the driver's like, I got a meeting with my teams. And they're like, man, I'm talking to these snipers, and they're like,
I remember that. I was trapped in a tunnel.
I was in the media center, and I was trapped.
We were going through the tunnel, and they stopped everybody. So I'm at the bottom of this tunnel, and I'm like claustrophobic. I'm like, I'm going to die in here. It's like, is there air? I'm running out of air.
It was a fun one. Well, I'm going to save that story for another day when we do another NASCAR thing. But we're just, it was one of those crazy things that happened in the world of racing, wacky and wonderful.
Like elevators. I get very, elevators really get to me.
Elevators? Okay.
Yeah. That song, Aerosmith song, Love in an Elevator.
Yeah, let's not. No, I've been in an elevator with you. Let's not
That's
talk
what
about
I mean.
that.
You don't want to ride in an elevator. Nobody does. Okay, and with that,
we're going to end this.
I don't have a story. No, I don't have a story.
We're going to end this week's episode.
Have the story.
Down there, you know the drill, guys. Like and subscribe. We're also on Spotify. You can find us there too. Oversteertv, the podcast. Come on, man. Show us some love. I'll be spreading the word. This will be up once it gets up. And so like and subscribe. I'm also thinking of some ideas for a Patreon page for us to do so we can maybe have some guys come and support us even more, our fans, and get them a little special. If you
want to join us on the Zoom, right? We'll squeeze you in for a few minutes.
Yeah. As
long as you don't curse and you're not naked.
Yeah, the cursing part's tough. The naked, it depends on what you look like.
Yeah, well,
All right, then. This has been Jeff Brown, my good friend, the guitar man there, and I'm Tony Castanera, and saying goodbye and see you next week at Oversteertv, the podcast. Wave.
Sayonara.
Wave.